everybody, I'm Chef Laura. Thank you for being with me here at We Chef. Today we are going to be making some cheddar pepper crackers. The pepper is optional because I know some kids are not big fans of pepper because it can bring a little heat to your mouth, but in theory they're cheddar pepper crackers. You can just make them cheddar crackers if you choose. The first thing we're going to do today is we are going to grate our cheese. We need 1 cup of grated cheese. I am going to use this fine grate on this side. We definitely don't want to use this prickly side of the grater. One, it can cut you more than the other sides, but this is used for some harder grated cheese, like a really firm Parmesan or something like that. So we are going to take our cheese and we are going to push this down our grater. See how my fingers are not close to the grater. So big kids, you can do this on your own. Younger ones, you can hold this cheese along with your adult. And I'm also not going crazy fast, right? We are not racing, we are not against the clock on this. We have plenty of time to get this done. So I'm gonna stop for a sec because it's crazy how you grate just a little bit of cheese and all of a sudden it becomes a big, huge mound of cheese. So I actually think already I have my cup of grated cheese. And again, this is cheddar. You can, I guess, essentially use anything you want. I would use a cheese with the relatively same consistency as cheddar, not something too soft, but you could use Swiss, Manchego. I like extra sharp cheddar, and I think cheddar would probably be the thing that most kids would like. So we are going to set our cup of cheddar cheese aside. Let me get this dirty tray out of here, and now we are going to measure the rest of our ingredients. For our crackers, we have some flour. So we are going to do 1 tablespoon, or what am I talking about? This would be 1 cup, not a tablespoon, silly Laura. So this is 1 cup, so sorry about that, I don't know where my mind is. 1 cup of flour plus 1/4 cup of flour. Let's set those aside. Then we need some salt. Let me grab this over here. I forgot to set my salt aside. So we need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I'm gonna scoop, I'm gonna make sure that 1/2 teaspoon is flat, and I'm gonna dump that guy in there. Now here comes our pepper. So I'm gonna just give a couple really nice twists of fresh ground pepper in here. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons, but it all depends on what the flavor you want. If you want a hint of pepper, if you want the pepper like full in your face, it really depends on what you want. So again, 1 1/4 cups of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then anywhere from none to 2 teaspoons of pepper. How about we go there? And just a reminder, all these recipes will be are posted on my website, wechefchicago.com, if you need to reference them after. Now we're gonna put our cheese into our bowl. And then we have 4 tablespoons of cold butter. It's important that this is cold. So I prepared this before I cut my 4 tablespoons. And can you see how I have them in little chunks? So I have this in little chunks, and I'm just gonna break up those little chunks and put them into my bowl. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press that butter so I pick up the flour and I press that butter and that flour together and push and rub those between my fingers. This is kind of like what we do when we make pie dough, because what I want left is I want little nuggets of butter left in this mixture of flour, so that when this bakes, the little nugget of butter melts and it presses and it steams and it presses apart our dough, so it makes a nice flaky, buttery cracker. So This is gonna take a little bit. And again, you're not pressing, you're not taking your hands and pressing it together like so, okay? I'm taking my hands and between, I'm rubbing like this with my thumb and basically my index finger and my middle finger is what the fingers I'm using most, until these are little pea-sized nuggets of butter in our mixture. So it shouldn't look wet, it shouldn't come together as dough, it should remain dry in appearance. Okay, so if your flour starts looking wet, it means you've gone too far and stop yourself. So it's really easy to just kind of get into the groove of this and just keep going and going. This is actually one of my favorite cooking techniques. I love getting my hands in my flour and doing this. It just, for some reason, it makes me, I find it soothing. I don't know, it just makes me very happy. So your final mixture should look crumbly. Can you guys see that? It should look crumbly with some little chunks of butter, little pea-sized chunks of butter, okay? So we have one last ingredient we're gonna add. I'm gonna get out my liquid measure, and I have some heavy cream. And we are going to pour half a cup of heavy cream. So watching the side of my liquid measure to get an accurate half cup of heavy cream. And I'm going to pour this into my mixture. And then I'm going to mix this up until it becomes a dough. So what I like to do is just with one hand, I'm holding the bowl with the other hand, I'm using just my fingertips, because look at my fingertips are all goopy already, and I would prefer to just have my fingertips goopy rather than my entire hand. So I'm using my fingertips to kind of stir that cream into that flour mixture. And then once it's not feeling so goopy anymore, I'm gonna use my hand and I'm gonna press this all together until it becomes a dough. And again, I'm still using only one hand because I only want one hand to get dirty. If for smaller kids, just because of the size of their hands, they are probably going to need to get both hands in there so that they can, because their hand just isn't big enough to get it all together. So they're probably gonna have to use both hands. So this takes a tiny bit of work to get this together. I want to get all those pieces from the bottom of my bowl. I don't want any of that cheese left behind. And then we're going to put this in the fridge just for a little bit to let this firm up, just a little bit, maybe like half hour, 45 minutes. As long as you haven't overworked it, it actually should still be relatively cool because I put that cold cream in here. So mine still is cool to the touch, my dough. But I'm gonna wrap this up and let this sit for a little bit. I'm gonna wrap it in plastic and put it in the fridge and let it be there for a little bit, okay? My dough has rested for a little while in the refrigerator, so I'm gonna take it out. I'm only going to roll a little bit at a time. I'm gonna roll half or a third at a time. Especially for littler kids, it's a lot of dough. This is gonna make a lot of crackers, so if you want to half the recipe, that would be okay too. And that's a great way for my older kids to challenge themselves with a little bit of culinary math in having the recipes and the fractions and that kind of thing. So I'm gonna put a little flour on my table. I'm gonna put my dough down and a little flour on top of my dough. Not a lot, okay? We don't want to be eating mouthfuls of flour when we eat our crackers. So I'm gonna roll one way, I'm gonna pick this dough up and roll the other way. We're not trying to necessarily get it a circle in shape, but what's helpful is if you pick it up, if you pick it up while and move it while you are rolling, you ensure that it does not stick to the table. So I'm gonna put just a tiniest bit more flour on the top. We are almost there. And we wanna roll these thin. Crackers are thin, right? crackers are not thick and chunky. And it doesn't matter what shape this ends up. I am not concerned about what shape this dough is in the end. Because we are going to cut it into our cracker shape. Okay, so nice thin dough. Now, I happen to have ring cutters here, a set of various size ring cutters. So if you happen to have these at home, this is probably my top choice. And you can pick whatever size cracker you want. When we are cutting our dough, here, let me pull this back so you guys can see more of my dough. We always want to start, in a corner, and I cut my first one. I'm going to give my cutter a little shimmy, and then I pull it away. Now, when I cut the next one, I'm trying to keep my cut, my next cracker towards the top of my dough, and as close as it possibly can be to its next door neighbor. So then when I have to move below, again, I'm just moving as close as I can. The closer we make those cuts together, the more crackers we will get out of this sheet of dough. Okay, so I'm really trying to make these cuts, press these as close as we can together. Now, if you don't have a set of ring cutters, that is okay. I looked around my shop this morning and tried to find a couple of things. You could use a lid. So this is a little lid off of sprinkles. So I press, I turn. It's a little bit trickier to get out because it's not, you don't have hole on both sides to kind of push it out, but it works. I just cut that nice little cracker from that nice little round cracker. So look around and try to find something. Now, the other option is you can get a pizza cutter, and instead of cutting these in circles, I'm gonna cut off the side a little bit. We can cut these in squares, so I can cut down through my dough. And if they're squares, it depends on if you care or not, but I cut off the scraggly edges. And we can cut these into some squares, okay? So I have nice little squares using the pizza cutter. Okay, can you guys see that? It keeps slipping off my hand as I'm showing you. So some nice little squares. Or for my older kids, or parents can do this, you can take a nice big chef's knife and you can cut, just like the pizza cutter, you can cut through the dough and then cut off those little scraggly ends and then cut some nice little squares. If you really want to be very specific in your having in your square shape and making sure that they are nice and even, you can get out a ruler and use a ruler as a guide to do that. Now, let's move these to a sheet tray. I want to show you a couple other things. I'm not going to make you watch me cut all of these crackers because that would be a lot. But we're going to put these onto a parchment lined sheet tray. Now, we are going to take just a regular kitchen knife, and in the middle of each cracker, we are just going to press down with this kitchen knife and give them each just like a little belly button in the middle, like a little just slit in the middle of each cracker, and that's just a little place for some of the air to escape so they don't poof up too much. Now, after we cut this dough and we cut all of our crackers from it, you guys are gonna have some scrap. You can push your scrap back together one time, okay? Because what's happening as we're rolling our dough is we're adding more flour and we're also working the gluten a lot. So what happens is if we bunch up our dough and roll it again, we've added more flour, we've worked the gluten that much more, and each time the crackers are gonna become tougher and tougher in texture. And then it ends up not being so good and just not worth it. So my personal feeling is bunch it up one more time with the scrap, and then the rest after that goes into the garbage, okay? These are all ready to go in the oven. I wanted to mention a couple things to you. One, these aren't gonna spread as they cook. So you can fill the tray pretty full. You know, you don't want them touching, but it can be a pretty full tray. And these are going to go into a 375-degree oven for, I'm gonna guess, around 10 minutes. We want these to be golden brown. So when they're golden, you take them out. Again, my oven here is going to cook them faster than my oven at home. So I'm guessing 8 to 10 minutes here. At my house, it might be up to 15 minutes. Okay. My crackers are finished and they're this lovely golden brown color. Now, the final step to these is I have some melted butter here in this ramekin. I melted some butter. With a pastry brush, I'm just gonna give each little cracker a little swipe of melted butter. And then after the melted butter, I'm going to give them a little sprinkle of some salt. And then these little guys are complete and ready to eat. And it's great because, you know, these are a homemade version of a goldfish, minus the goldfish shape, or a Cheez-It or something like that. And I don't know, they're super fun to make. So I hope you enjoy them. Thank you for being with me. And again, if you need to reference this recipe, it is on WeChefChicago.com. Thanks again. Bye-bye.